Pre-circuit at Silverstone. The drivers qualified yesterday. They had a split qualifying session, a 5-minute break between parts, which determined the grids for race 1 and race 2. The grid for race 1 was set in the dry, and the circuit is pretty much bone dry now. It was a wet qualifying for race 2, and that is the race that comes up tomorrow for the cars. It's a good field. We have 26 of them. There were 27. Guest driver Senan Fielding, I'm afraid, though, crashed in the second qualifying session and did so much damage the car can't be repaired. He has to sit out this weekend's races. Big disappointment for one of the leading lights in the BRDC F4 Championship. So the grid starts to assemble, ready for what is going to be a 22-minute race, normally 25, but because of earlier delays in the timetable, 22 minutes, the timing screen tells us. And the man on pole position is Aurélien Panis, the son of Olivier Panis, and he is going to be a man to watch for sure, as the 19-year-old student drives one of the top teams, the ART junior team. Everybody in the same sort of car. Renault engine, 2-litre Tatius chassis. It's down to the drivers, it is down to the teams to get the best out of them. And as the cars start to form up, it is Aurélien Panis and Levin Amveg at the front of the grid. Now, Panis didn't score at all at Monza. Amveg is only 13th in the championship, so it's a really quirky grid that we have. The championship leader, Louis Delatraz, the son of Jean-Denis Delatraz, who had his 3 starts as a backmarker in Formula 1, but better known as a GT driver, he will start 13th on the grid. So it's almost like a handicap race. You've got some of the quicker drivers or championship front runners starting way back on the grid, and those that have not had a great start to the season are going to be at the very front. Panis certainly a man to watch then as we get ready for the first of these 2 races.
So after a couple of races at Monza, it's Louis Delatraz.
So the field is formed, and with the road dry, it might just be a little bit damp and lethal offline if you get a bit too carried away going, for example, down to the stadium. But largely, the circuit good for racing, and this third round of the championship will be getting underway any moment. They've got one further warming up lap to get some warmth into the Michelin rubber. Then we should be in business. And down at the front of the grid, it is, you can see car number 5, Jake Hughes. He will start third, the British driver, last year's BRDC F4 champion. But he is going to be on the second row. We've yet to have Panis and Amveg slot into place. You can see the officials busy trying to get everybody in the right places. 1 or 2 being held at the back of the grid. They will be brought forward, and then we should get underway. We have 2 installation laps, and then 22 minutes will be the race. The fact that they are going to have these 2 green flag laps is all down to the fact that they haven't really had too much running in the wet. I know they had a bit of qualifying yesterday in the wet, but it's going to be 2 installation laps, and that's why we're down to 22 minutes for the race itself. And the grid taking shape now, so everybody I think is just about there. No, 1 or 2 more gaps that need plugging, and then we should be in business. So Aurélien Panis, the man on pole position, who has raced in the Formula Renault Euro Cup, he's raced in the Alps Championship, he knows his way around one of these cars therefore, and will be the man to beat. Although Jake Hughes, starting third on the grid, I think could also be a real factor in this race. He has raced on the Grand Prix circuit before as part of last year's BRDC F4 Championship, but the British driver, if he can make a decent enough start, should be a man to watch in this. And of course Silverstone's Grand Prix circuit is a wide lap, it's a long lap, there are overtaking opportunities, so it should be a very good race indeed. But they've got these 2 warming up laps and a shorter race, which may just affect the progress that 1 or 2 of them can make a little bit. So the cars will be getting the 5-minute board shortly, and then released onto that last warming up lap. The back of the grid, Leopold Ringborn, who had an engine change yesterday and just out qualifying him. Robert Siska, who is at 71 years of age, perhaps the most unlikely driver to find on a Formula Renault grid. It's for career single-seater racing drivers, but Robert Siska, the American, great enthusiast for his racing. Raced in Formula Atlantic, he's done an occasional number of these races, and comes to Silverstone this weekend, and he's looking forward, no doubt, to 2 good races on the full Grand Prix circuit. Now the grid's starting to be cleared. he also was a podium finisher at Monza. So as the cars then turn their way through Abbey, but of course these days at Silverstone goes right, not left, then through Farm and up towards Village. This corner, the sharp right, burst of acceleration, then hard on the brakes to the loop, and then speed starts to build as the cars turn their way through Aintree and down Wellington Straight. This the first of the 2 green flag laps, and then because of the need for an extra, so a slightly shorter race duration that we will have. A truly international field: America, France, Britain, Austria, Sweden, Ecuador, the Netherlands, Switzerland, the Czech Republic, South Africa, Mexico, Finland, and only 1 German driver, but Germany is still represented on the grid. Max Biedermann is the man, former karting front runner. He'll be another driver to watch in the course of 22 minutes of racing. Out of Luffield, the cars will come. You can see everybody eager to get the warmth into the tyres, and then they will make their way, this time over the line, down towards Copse, but next time around they'll slot into place. Although you've got to say the front row drivers of Aurélien Panis and Levin Amveg not looking as though they're that keen to go pounding on for another lap here. They've got everybody bunched up behind. I just wonder whether they've actually got the message that it's 2 installation laps, or information laps as they're being called by the officials. So as the field trickles its way out of Luffield, yes, the green flag is being waved, and the drivers almost reluctant to do the second lap. It's as though they're going to stop. I think now Panis has... No, he hasn't got the message, has he? They are going to, I think, get themselves in grid order, even though there is another lap, and the green flag is... there it is, you can see being shown by the marshals. The drivers haven't got the message, and so they've stopped. And this is going to throw everything into complete confusion, because if anybody thinks they are going to get a second green flag lap, thankfully, instead of a flag, a bit of arm waving has got the message across. Go, go, go. There are the BRSCC officials saying, off you go. So the drivers didn't get the message, I think that was the problem. So they get away now to do the lap, but finally the message got through. It's been on the timing screens, the team know about it, but for some reason it never got to the drivers. So that's why they all stopped. They get going now, and will turn their way, yes, at some speed through the Beckett's S's. Part of the reason for this second lap is to let them see where all the puddles are. Part of it is to go at a serious pace and put warmth into the tyres. Well, any warmth that they had, they've just lost by dawdling on the grid. Some of the blame, I suppose you would say, has to go on the pole position driver. But if nobody told the drivers, and believe me, this information has come up on the timing screen whilst they've been on the grid, maybe it didn't get through to them in time. You can perhaps understand some of the confusion. That blue and white Telmex car you've just seen is that of Jorge Tabayos, who goes onto the hanger straight now, and that looks to be the worst part of the circuit weather-wise. That is where there is more standing water than anywhere else. So the 2 front row drivers make their way towards the end of Vale. It is Panis and Amveg at the front of the grid. 1 by 1, staggered start, pole on the outside. Jake Hughes shares the second row of the grid with Gustav Malia. And then row 3 is where you find Seb Morris, who's on pole for race 2, and fellow Brit Ben Barnicoat, both of them for Fortec Motorsport. Callum O'Keefe and Stein Schothorst share the 4th row of the grid, ahead of Matthew Graham and Raoul Owens, the South African. The 6th row is where you find Rukia Sasahara and Stefan Rina to line up alongside him. And then Louis Delatraz, championship leader, and Ryan Tfita to line up alongside the American, alongside the Swiss driver. On the 8th row is Julio Moreno, formerly to be found in this country's Formula 4 Championship, and Roy Geertz ahead of Jorge Tabayos and Josef Zaruba, ex-Radical racer. On the 10th row of the grid, Philip Morin and Robin Hansen, the Swedes, with Cedric Freiberghaus and Lassie Halminen coming next on the grid. They are ahead of Nicholas Surgelautra and Max Biedermann, who is going to be 24th on the grid, 25th, the venerable Robert Siska, and after his engine change, putting him to the back, Leopold Ringbob. That then is how the grid lines up, but not for everybody, because there is a car off, as you can see, by the side of the road, and it has spun by the look of it coming out of Chapel Curve. Have a look at the top of the screen, because as he catches the puddle, round goes the car, and that is near the back of the grid. I've got a horrible feeling that is Robert Siska who may have gone. We don't quite get a clear enough shot of the number, but I think that's number 3, Robert Siska. And the 71-year-old American, I'm afraid, yes, trudges away. It is Robert Siska, and big disappointment. So the American, I'm not kidding you when I say he's 71, he is a stalwart enthusiast of motor racing, but he's not going to take part in race 1. So Robert Siska crashes out on the formation lap, and he makes his way now behind the barrier to watch what is going to happen in round 3 of the Formula Renault 2.0 NEC Championship. The cars are on the grid, and any moment, as soon as the back of the grid is formed, we will be in business. Pole position man is Aurélien Panis. His teammate, but with the green top to his crash helmet, Levin Amveg, lines up alongside in number 35, Amveg, who raced in the Euro Cup last year. He's a former Formula LO champion, which is a Swiss-based series for Formula BMW cars. And are we going to get a delayed start, just to add to the fun? Because now Robert Siska's car is going to be retrieved, and I've got a horrible feeling it's going to be a delayed start and yet another green flag lap, because that car, I don't think, is going to be out of the way before the pack descend. It's a bit of a tense situation, but the race, I think, is going to start anyway. Let's see. Engine notes rise, the lights go out, we do get a start, and away they go with a good getaway being made by Levin Amveg then on the inside line. Is he going to get the lead going into Kopp's corner? Yes, he is. Levin Amveg goes through, grabs the advantage on the inside to put himself up ahead of Panis for the race lead as the cars now head up towards Beckett's for the first time. 1 or 2 run a little bit wide coming out of the corner, but as they dive into the Beckett's S's for the first time of asking, Levin Amveg leads the way, but as they come out of Beckett's and through Chapel Curve, there is going to be a situation that is not exactly ideal at the start of a race. Far from it, because all of a sudden on the first lap of a race you find a recovery vehicle, which is the most extraordinary sight at the first lap, but the officials have done their best to get the car out of the way in time, and the race leaders descend now upon Stowe Corner for the first time. So Amveg it is who leads the way. Aurélien Panis runs second as they come down towards Club Corner for the first time, and then this gaggle of cars behind. Ben Barnicoat running 6th in the Racing Steps Foundation livery, trying to gain ground as well, but up past the wing they will come for the first time. Amveg trying to make good his escape here, and is he doing so? Yes, he is. Aurélien Panis dropping back a little bit. Battles well and truly joined for 4th place, as well as the cars head through Abbey for the first time, and now up towards Village. But if anything, for 2nd place, it looks as though Panis is coming under attack. They brake hard as they work their way now up through Village, then towards the loop for the first time. Gustav Malya in the yellow car running in 4th place, coming under attack. Jake Hughes has done a pretty decent first lap as well. 1 or 2 have dropped down the order, such as Matthew Graham. He has lost out on this first lap, but as the cars work their way down towards Brooklands for the first time, avoiding the puddles, the damp parts of the road on the inside, that's going to preclude overtaking there, certainly for the first couple of laps. The leaders head out of Luffield, leading 3 as 1, and then the 4th placed train of cars headed by Gustav Malya working its way now towards Woodcote Corner. Up towards the timing line they come. So 22 minutes of racing, big scare for them on that first lap because of the parked car, but as the leaders come by, Amveg leads. Panis is 2nd, in 3rd it is Jake Hughes, in 4th place is Gustav Malya, and then in 5th place now it is 31, which is Seb Morris, and to round out the top 6 is Ben Barnicoat, and this is the battle for 4th place, because now the blue car of Seb Morris is looking for a way past Gustav Malya. He tried going into Beckett's and couldn't do it, so Barnicoat gets onto his tail, and going with them as well now is Stein Schotthorst as the cars accelerate their way down towards Stowe Corner. So they go through the water splash that brings them out of Chapel Curve, now down towards Stowe, and closing up onto the back of Panis for 2nd place is Jake Hughes, and look at this, almost 3 wide diving into Stowe Corner. A challenge made by Stein Schotthorst on the inside of Ben Barnicoat. He sticks out his elbows, he muscles away through. Barnicoat gets hung out to dry on the curb, and so he falls back behind the Flying Dutchman as they come down to the end of Vale. So Stein Schotthorst, from a good racing family, his brother, for example, a quick driver in the Carrera Cup Deutschland this year, gains a place. And all of that train now being caught by Raoul Owens, as well as the leader, which is still Levin Amveg, leads the way. Aurélien Panis turns out of Abbey through Farm, with Jake Hughes close, but not close enough to attack, although he has just done the best of anybody in the first sector. In 4th place, the bright yellow car, there it is, in the hands of Gustav Malya, turning his way up towards Aintree in a moment. Out of the loop he will come. And then for 5th place, Seb Morris under attack now, because Stein Schotthorst has got himself into contention. He's right on the tail of the British driver. Cullen O'Keefe through as well in the Lotus Junior team car, and Morris really goes defensive, squeezing towards the grass. Schotthorst there, who keeps his foot in. He can't attack coming into Brooklands, but Seb Morris drives one very wide car. Certainly made sure that there was absolutely no chance that with 2 wheels on the grass he was going to lose a place there to Schotthorst. And Stein Schotthorst has actually only lost about half a length. He stayed on the back of Morris, despite the way that he was defended against, coming down towards Brooklands. The leader goes through Levin Amveg, now 9/10 up on Aurelian Panis. Morris, Shothorst, then Barnicoat turned through Cox Corner. And that is the battle for 6th, 7th and 8th places now, with Raoul Owens getting onto the back of them. And this is how Seb Morris in the blue car defended. Moved right across, Stein Shothorst taking to the grass with 2 wheels. Got away with all of that. What the officials' view of it is, we shall wait and see as the 3 leaders work their way onto Hanger Straight once again. 22 minutes of racing we have in total, 17 minutes and change on the clock, and as they work their way down to the braking area, it is Amveg who has now done the best of anybody in Sector 1. So tyres are getting warmer, fuel load is coming down, cars generally getting faster, and Levin Amveg, who, remember, started this race 13th in the championship, leads the way. Now, how's the championship leader doing? Because Louis Delatraz is only 13th at the moment. The Monza round 1 winner is struggling to make progress around here. So Delatraz not, I'm afraid, being able to maintain the pace that he showed in Italy. It's his 2nd year of the championship. There you can see Yukio Sasahara finished 2nd in the opening race at Monza, and Sasahara at the moment is only 11th, so there's another driver looking at a very different result here from that he achieved in Italy. Midfield battle working its way up towards Village. See the speed the cars carrying, and towards the left-hander at the loop comes Sasahara. He in turn is coming under a bit of pressure now because he's got Stefan Riener in the Speedfish Racing Team car behind him. Down towards Brooklands for the 3rd time come the race leaders. 25 minutes, 22 minutes as it has become, doesn't give you that many laps around the Grand Prix circuit here, but Levin Amveg is doing a very good job, 9/10 up at the moment on anybody else as the battles continue behind. Up towards the timing line now comes Amveg, and with 2 purple sectors in 2 of the sectors thus far, and now a 3rd purple sector. The fastest lap of the race is done by the race leader, so he's now done a 1:59.805. Proof that the road is getting drier, proof that the cars are getting lighter and tyres are getting warmer, and also proof that Amveg is very much the man to beat at the moment. He is now over a 2nd clear of Aurelian Panis, and then in 3rd place is Jay Hughes as the cars work their way once again out of the Beckett's S's. Now there, Ben Barnicoat in the Racing Steps Foundation colours drives for Fortec, powering his way up towards Chapel Curve. He's getting away from Raoul Owens. Now what's happening in the Seb Morris Stein Shothorst battle? Morris with the very wide car, again run by Fortec, fending off Shothorst as they drop down towards Stowe Corner. Stein Shothorst closing up in the Manor MP run car and turning their way out of Stowe down through Vale. 15 more minutes on the clock. We're getting a replay here of Max Biedermann coming into Brooklands, and he gets hung out to dry on the outside, runs wide, finds the grass, loses a place, loses traction, loses the lot. Round he goes, and Biedermann drops way down the order as a consequence, and is now in 25th, which is now last place, I'm afraid, after that drama. Levin Amveg, though, is the race leader, but in Sector 1, Aurelian Panis does the best of anybody, so he's brought the gap down by a whopping 23 thousandths of a second. A big deal, you might suggest, but if he can carry on in Sector 2 and Sector 3 like that, there is a chance that he might be able to do something about the leader. Seb Morris, though, is still rather distracted, having to defend from Stein Shothorst here. The Dutchman tucked up behind the Brit as they come to Wellington Straight. The leaders head down once more into Brooklands. This is the end of lap number 4, and as they turn their way through the corner, Shothorst close to the back of Morris, but not close enough to make a move for position there. Can he dive up the inside going into Luffield? He closes right up, but there's not really an opportunity. The cars making their way now up over the timing line once again. On that lap, quicker was Panis than the race leader Amveg, so the gap has come down just a little bit between them. Through they come, past the pits once again. Callum O'Keefe is the man that runs in the Lotus Junior Team colours, and he's inching up onto the back of Raoul Owens. The race leaders then make their way through the Beckett's S's once more. You can see the way that in 4th place, Gustav Mallier has been able to distance himself from this man, Seb Morris. Seb's so busy is he defending from Stein Shothorst, he's lost touch a little bit with the car ahead. To the Hanger Straight they come once again. Seb Morris, who's come via Ginetta Juniors and Formula Renault BARC, and was the runner-up in F4 last year. Great little battle going on behind as the really aggressive Stefan Riener comes up to try to get himself alongside Yukio Sasahara. Riener on the outside line in the yellow and white car, can't do it. Sasahara hangs onto the place. But again, you've seen some pretty aggressive defence in this. Sasahara moving across. making sure that Renault couldn't find a way past him, and now both of them being caught by Delatraz. So Louis Delatraz, who is still there in 13th place, doing his best to gain places and join the party. You score points in the top 20, and it's only for finishing positions, nothing for pole or the fastest lap. So Delatraz will score. He's helped by the fact that his next two rivals in the championship, Kevin Jurg and Andrea Pizzitola, are not here this weekend. So really, the person who needs to be outscoring is Stein Schotthorst, as again Renault challenges to try to make a move coming out of the loop. Renault getting ever more industrious in this, but Ukio Sasahara drives a wide old car and is able to hang on to the position as the race leaders are getting closer and closer. The gap last time was 7/10 of a second as they now work their way out of Luffield, heading up towards the timing line once again. And if the gap continues to come down like this, Amveg is going to find himself in a real battle pretty soon. Past the pits they go, 7/10. It comes down to 6/10. Not a massive gain, but another step in the right direction for Aurélien Panis in second position. Third is Hughes, fourth is Mallia, fifth is Morris, sixth there Schotthorst, seventh it is Ben Barnicoat, and for eighth now, Raoul Owens has been caught by Callan O'Keefe. Top 10 being completed by Matthew Graham, who lost out on the first lap of the race. So for Aurélien Panis in second place, he's going after his teammates in the ART junior team squad, and is that gap continuing to come down? Let's see. He was not quite so good in that final sector on the previous lap, Panis. That's where he lost a little bit of ground. It had been looking even better at the start of it. But as they come now out of Stowe, down through Vale once again, Panis in sector 1 is fractionally quicker. Of course, you get to the point where the closer you get, you sit in the dirty air. It has that negative effect on your aero, and so you struggle and you drop back a little bit. So if Aurélien Panis can close up onto the back of the race leader, he needs to be very bold and make a move almost as soon as he arrives on the tail. Otherwise, he'll get compromised by being stuck in the dirty airflow. Out of Abbey, through Farm, come the race leaders. Still just under half the race to go. 10.5 minutes we have remaining. As into Village they come once again. Levin Amveg it is who leads the way. And then Aurélien Panis in second spot. Experienced Formula Renault racer. Now what about Stein Schotthorst's progress? He's back on the tail of Seb Morris and looks for a slightly tighter line coming out of the loop. Is he going to be able to get up alongside as they head down Wellington Straight? He's tried it once before and got a face full of Morris. Let's see what happens this time. Down they come, under the vehicle bridge. Morris moving across to defend and then moves back again to get the line for the corner. And diving up the inside is Schotthorst. Over the curb and through he comes. Great move. Really opportunistic. He left it as late as he possibly could. Morris thought he wasn't going to challenge and therefore concentrated on the corner. And Schotthorst came charging up the inside, and it was really too late for Morris to properly retaliate. That was a great move by Stein Schotthorst. He's come through on the inside. Seb Morris then drops back to 6th, but can he fight back? I was about to suggest they were being caught by Ben Barnicoat. A little bit of damage though on Schotthorst's left front wing. You can see the bodywork flapping slightly, but have a look at this. Into the corner, Morris commits to the line, and then suddenly, oh no! Schotthorst up the inside of him, and there's not much that Seb can do. He can't move across anymore, and so Schotthorst is through. Really brave stuff. And there is a sideways Morris getting it a bit wrong in the mid part of the Beckett's S's, and now he's got Barnicoat closing on him, and for the race lead that gap is coming down as well, because it was half a second last time, and Amveg has got Panis getting ever closer. Barnicoat round the outside of Morris here as they dive into Stoke Corner. Can he do it? Absolutely wheel to wheel, and Ben Barnicoat's on the outside line. Tries to go round the outside of the blue car in the hands there of Seb Morris. They're still wheel to wheel down to the end of Vale. Morris is ahead, but he's on the outside, and Barnicoat goes through. He started that at the end of Hanger Straight. He sat there all the way down through Vale, and coming towards Club, he makes it stick. Ben Barnicoat goes through and takes 6th place away from Seb Morris, and boy did he work hard for that as the two race leaders now work their way up towards the loop. Up front, Levin Amveg. He's on lap 7, and gradually Aurélien Panis, who didn't make the best of starts, is closing up, and that is Morris going up the inside of Barnicoat. Are they going to touch? Well, Morris spins, round he goes, lights up the rear tyres, and Seb Morris rejoins, but he's losing place after place after place as he gets going now. He's going to drop down to, I would suggest, 15th place. He will rejoin behind Roy Geertz. So down he comes, heading towards Brooklands, and Seb Morris, I'm afraid, having challenge for position, ends up having a big spin, and Delatraz goes past him as well. In fact, that means that Delatraz has lost out on that lap because he was ahead of Geertz at the start of it. So Louis Delatraz comes through and picks up a place in what's rather a damage limitation race for him. The lead gap, though, is down to 3/10 as the leaders have gone over the line. Here they are, coming into the Beckett's S's. We're on lap 8. Through they come. Turning their way now out of Beckett's onto the hanger straight once again. Levin Amberg it is, who still looks as though he's got things under control. Comes onto hanger straight now, heading down towards Stoke Corner. Behind them is Jake Hughes, who has kind of never quite got onto the tail of the leaders despite his pace in this race. Jake has looked promising, but it's never quite gelled for him. In 4th is the yellow car in the hands of Gustav Malja. In 5th place is Stein Schotthorst. 6th is Ben Barnicoat. And at the end of that previous lap, Seb Morris ended up, in fact, 14th as he came over the timing line after his spin coming through Village. 7 minutes of the race remain. Louis Delatraz's progress, he's got back up into 13th, so still struggling in this race. He will score, but he won't score well, particularly with Stein Schotthorst now up into 5th place. Schotthorst coming into this race has 36 points against the 54 of Delatraz for the championship. But even so, the fact that Delatraz is scoring badly, even if he doesn't lose the championship lead, it will be much diminished. Aurélien Panis turning out of the loop. More battles lower down. Yet again, Seb Morris draws attention to himself as he tries to fight away back ahead of Delatraz for 13th place. Roy Geertz in the bright orange car there turns through. Delatraz, then Morris, and behind him, Ryan Tvita. All the cars now starting to look really nervous as they come through Village. Seb Morris accelerates onto Wellington Straight this time. And he's not near enough to Delatraz to think about making a move. He looked a little bit closer as they work their way into that new section of the circuit. We're also having Cedric Freiberghaus warned about exceeding the track limits, which is an age-old drama at Silverstone with all that very inviting run-off tarmac to drive over. The lead gap goes up to 0.8 of a second. Amberg leading the way from Panis. 'Twas ever thus. There still is Stein Schotthorst with his flapping front wing. Now, what's Schotthorst's lap time like relative to Malja? He's 2/10 quicker as a best lap time, and on his last lap, 9/10 quicker. So I think the battle is going to be on before the very end for 4th place. Stein Schotthorst is closing on Gustav Malja. Race leaders working their way down towards Stoke Corner. In the first sector a lap ago, Panis lost about half a second. On this lap, he loses a 10th. So he's still not getting close enough and still not putting himself in a position where he can challenge. But as the leaders now work their way once again down through Vale, that is the man on a mission. That is Stein Schotthorst, the Dutchman, part of the McGregor clothing empire family, comes to the end of Vale, chasing after the yellow car of Gustav Malja. And in the first sector, he's taken 4/10 out of him. So I think Schotthorst could be on here for 4th place by the very end of the race. Comes past the wing, and the new F1 pits on the right-hand side up towards Abbey now. Gustav Malja, ex-ADAC Formula Masters racer, his 2nd year in the Formula Renault NEC, heads up towards Village. And what about a sector time for Schotthorst in the middle sector? Can he get closer? Ben Barnicoat turning his way through. Barnicoat running in 6th spot now, ahead of Raoul Owens and Callan O'Keefe. Down Wellington Straight, the cars come to the end of the 2nd sector. Schotthorst takes another 10th out of Gustav Malja. So there you can see them heading down towards Brooklands. The gap continues to come down as they head into the stadium. Schotthorst is not close enough yet, and he's going to get, what, 2 more laps out of this race, I think, at the end of this one. So 4 minutes are on the clock, as there is the race leader heading up towards the timing line now. Levin Amberg, after that good start, has been able to dominate the race despite the best efforts of Aurélien Panis. The gap is 0.6 of a second. And Jake Hughes in no man's land. He's not being caught by anybody, but he can't do anything about those ahead. Schotthorst is now being warned about track limits, incidentally, as also is Roy Geertz. The rest of the field turns through Cops. Barnicoat 6th, Raoul Owens 7th, Callan O'Keefe is 8th. In 9th place, Matthew Graham. 10th is Kia Sasahara. 11th is Stefan Rina. And then in 12th place, Roy Geertz being warned about the track limits, as we talked about. And Julio Moreno, number 10, just goes through Schott, the Ecuadorian that we used to see in the British Formula Ford Championship. Leopold Ringbo, incidentally, who had an engine change before qualifying yesterday, is in the pits once more, which makes one think that all is still not well with that car. He's the only retirement from the race, allowing for Robert Sisko, who didn't get into it after his dramas on the green flag lap. So the leader comes out of club. heading now up towards Abbey, and in the first sector of this lap, Panis fell away slightly against Amveg. A pair of them, though, still safe, because try as he might, Jake Hughes, last year's BRDC F4 champion, can't do anything about the two ahead of him. He is lapping in the 2-minute ones quicker than Gustav Malja, who in turn is being caught by Stein Schotthorst, and there's going to be one more lap at the end of this, looking at the clock, as the leaders now come out of the loop in towards Aintree. Levin Amveg has done a very good job, 13th in the championship coming into this race. He only scored in the first race at Monza, although to be fair he did finish 4th, but it looks like it's going to be his best of the season and his maiden victory of the year as well, as he comes now into Luffield, still being pursued by Aurelien Panis, who was marginally quicker in the middle sector, but the 10th he'd lost in sector 1, he pulls back in sector 2. It's going to be pretty much the same gap between them, as down towards Brooklands comes Raoul Owens in the blue and white car, fending off Callan O'Keefe, the South African, in the Lotus F1 colours as a junior driver. The leaders are on the last lap, less than a lap time left in the race now, and the lead gap is 0.679 of a second. In third spot, Jake Hughes ahead of Gustav Malja. Now he versus Schotthorst, 0.8 of a second on that lap. Schotthorst was only 1/10 quicker, so despite the progress and the pace he seemed to have early on, it's not really happening quick enough for him. And as the leaders now power their way once again up towards Maggots, indeed for the final time this time towards Maggots, Schotthorst, despite my suggestion he could be on for 4th, looks like he's going to have to settle for 5th, and it looks too as though Aurelien Panis will have to settle for 2nd place, because try as he might, he can't unsettle Levin Amveg, who turns his way now around Stoke Corner. He goes down to the end of Vale, and as he does so, it looks as though win number 1 of the year is half a lap away. Aurelien Panis out-qualified him by just under 1/10 of a second, but he needed to make a better start, I'm afraid. It was the start that was the undoing, and it took Panis a few laps as well to seemingly get into the groove and get back onto the tail of Amveg, who now goes into Abbey as the race leader, clear of Panis in 2nd spot. Amveg heads towards the curb, sees them, twitches away, thinking don't want to drive on the wet paint, that'll not help traction. Everybody, of course, on a slick, despite the fact that the road has been wet, and that's why, certainly to begin with, people were a bit tippy-toey. But now that those tyres have had temperature into them, they can cope with the limited amount of water on the road, even though they're a slick tyre, slick Michelin. And coming onto the Wellington Straight for the last time, Levin Amveg still under attack as best it can be from Aurelien Panis, but it's only really going to be a mistake, I think, on the part of Amveg to take a potential victory away. The Swiss driver comes now down through Brooklands. Aurelien Panis tucked up behind him. It will be Panis for the podium for the first time this year as well, so both of them set to be on the podium for the first time this season. But for Levin Amveg, it will be a first victory of the 2014 Formula Renault 2.0 NEC. He comes out of Woodcote Corner, he comes over the timing line to take the checkered flag. Levin Amveg wins. Aurelien Panis comes through in 2nd place, half a second back at the end, and the 3rd, it is going to be Jake Hughes ahead of Gustav Malja, and then Stein Schotthorst will be through for 5th and 6th, then Barneycoat, and still the battles continue, because Raoul Owens comes through ahead of Callan O'Keefe, who's only just ahead of Matthew Graham, who was right on his tail as they worked their way over the timing line. At the very end of the race, those cars have got themselves together with the top 10 rounded out by Ukio Sasahara, and still they come pouring over the timing line. But for Levin Amveg, a very good drive, a very good win, perfectly measured, and he takes his first victory of the season. He is in the green crash helmet with Aurelien Panis, his teammate for ART junior team, coming up alongside to offer congratulations. And you can see that there is still water on the road as offline Amveg drives through it coming into Stoke Corner, but a very impressive run, didn't put a wheel wrong despite all the pressure being applied from those behind. And as he makes his way down through Vale, he can now celebrate a victory. Tomorrow's race grid already formed, with Seb Morris having taken pole position, and Seb in the end finishing only 14th in that race. Really disappointed after what looked like a pretty good showing to begin with. So the cars making their way back to the pit lane. They will subsequently go to the scrutineering checks, and the drivers will make their way to the podium. Levin Amveg, great start to the weekend. Let's see how it progresses from here. But the results of race 1 of the weekend: Levin Amveg the winner from Aurelien Panis, and then in 3rd Jake Hughes. Gustav Malja 4th ahead of Stein Schotthorst, and then the Brit Ben Barneycoat Raoul Owens 7th, Callan O'Keefe 8th ahead of Matthew Graham and Ukio Sasahara. Outside the top 10, it was Stefan Riener who came through 11th and Roy Geertz in 12th position. Only 13th, Louis Delatraz, 14th, Seb Morris, 15th was Ryan Vita and Julio Moreno 16th. Jorge Zavallos was 17th ahead of Cedric Freiberghaus, and then behind them we had one or two drivers that you might have anticipated to go a little bit better. Josef Zaruba, for example, struggling down in 21st, and Lassie Halminen didn't make much progress. He only got as far, sadly, as 22nd. And Leopold Ringbom was the one that we lost in the pit lane 5 laps into the race, so disappointment for him. The cars making their way down the pit lane, and in a moment or two the drivers will head first of all to the interview area and then up onto the podium. And the teams will be very happy that they haven't got too much damage to worry about, because there are occasions where Formula Renault can be a bit bruising, but on a nice wide circuit like Silverstone with bags of runoff, not an issue. So Aurélien Panis gets out of his car for second. Jake Hughes, the Brit, for the podium. Good result for Jake. He will make his way now up to the third step. And the man of the moment is Levin Amveig, who puts the steering wheel back on the car, stands atop it, and is a very happy winner of race 1 at Silverstone. The ART Junior team engineers are there to congratulate their driver. And very shortly, they will make their way up to the podium. Photographs taken, and crash helmets will come off in a moment, but Levin Amveig, a perfect drive, didn't put a wheel wrong, and comes through victorious. Aurélien Panis gave it his best shot, but in the end was just over half a second back at the end of the race. So the drivers now heading to the podium as we look at some of the highlights of round 3 of the Formula Renault North European Cup. This was the green flag lap that cost Robert Siska a chance of running, went off into the barriers, damaged the car, and the 71-year-old American went no further. So as the race got underway, the best start made by Levin Amveig, who charged up the inside, and by taking the race lead going into Cox Corner, it was Amveig who was never headed from that point. This was a remarkable scene on the first lap as the officials got Siska's car out of the way. Stein Schotthorst was busy making up places early on, attacking Ben Barnicoat going through Stowe Corner. He gained the position on the inside line. Barnicoat got forced out wide. Then Schotthorst attacked Morris. Seb Morris was very defensive indeed on the run down towards Brooklands. He hung on to the place there. In contrast, others weren't quite so fortunate, as Max Biedermann ran off the road and then ran out of luck going into Luffield. When Schotthorst did make his move on Morris, it was a perler. Diving up the inside, there was just about enough room, curb and all. Morris had a big slide a lap later coming through Beckett's, but would ultimately spin in his battle with Barnicoat. The two of them ran side by side heading down towards Stowe Corner. Barnicoat pulled off a great move to come around the outside. Wheel to wheel they went through Vale, and then by the time they got to the loop, up the inside went Seb Morris, and there was a spin and Morris dropped down the order. For Levin Amveig though, victory in race 1 at Silverstone. The winner by over half a second, with Aurélien Panis in second place and Jake Hughes in third. There's another race tomorrow. Join us for that from Silverstone. For now, from David Addison, it's goodbye.